Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 26, 2024. Coming up, Kevin Durant's going to come back and we're going to talk about his impact on the Suns. Man, they really missed him. Law Murray got to see Kristaps Porzingis and the Celtics dust the Clippers. And so we got his perspective on Porzingis and what happened with the Celtics just absolutely crushing the Clippers in this game. And then we're going to answer a couple of listener questions. S, I got to ask you a question. Jaden Ivey hits a game winner over the Raptors. Will the Raptors take the L or are they going to file a lawsuit? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S.
Good morning.
Some big news in the NBA. We had, a busy Monday night. You know how it goes.
Always.
But we got to start with the news. Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal are coming back for the NBA Cup matchup tonight against the Lakers.
They respect the cup.
Honestly, this is actually awesome that they're coming back for this game. Now it's a national TV game and these guys get up for that. But also the Suns are a team that we like coming into the season. We thought they were a contender. We've liked them when they've been at full strength. And they just lost 5 straight. So it's good to see them getting back to full strength. They really do need both of those guys. It's just going to help their rotation just kind of sort itself out.
Yeah, especially Kevin Durant, right? That's the main guy. This is the guy that I had said, look, if the season ended a week into the year, he would be the MVP, right? Yeah, right. Over the last 7 games, which is what Kevin Durant has missed, right? They went from 13th in offense before that to 20th on offense. They went from 13th in defense to 27th in defense. And so they fell off a cliff without Kevin Durant, right? Goes to show you how important he is. Goes to show you how important the combination of keeping Bradley Beal on the floor with a guy like Kevin Durant is. That's how important a guy like KD is for them, the MVP of their team, right? I guess the question I have moving forward is can they survive another injury?
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Hopefully
we're rooting for no injuries there. And let's not forget what he does for them defensively. It gets lost that how important he is for this team as a rim protector. Early in this season, he was out there locking guys up at the end of games. I think about him guarding James Harden quite a bit, from early on in the season. So big news for them. Also, hey, Ja Morant, he was back last night. He scored 22 points. The Grizzlies handled business against the Blazers. What'd you think about Ja? Outside of the huge dunk,
massive
the
dunk,
huge,
man.
The highlight reels, I thought he looked pretty good overall.
Yeah. And the Grizzlies have looked pretty good overall without him. So adding this star level talent just makes them that much more scary in a Western Conference that is already terrifying. So the NBA product is always better when you have a player like Ja Morant playing on every night. It's just as simple as that.
He is also, to be quite honest, he is the one player that is constantly trying to make sure you got your money's worth.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single time he has an opportunity to try to yam on somebody, he's going for it. He misses a lot of dunks because of it. But, so it is good to see him out there. Also, he, as the drink stirrer for Memphis, is going to open up a lot of things. Desmond Bane has been doing it here the last couple of weeks. And somehow, they've managed to withstand that. But now things are going to start to look a little bit clearer for Memphis. If Zach Edey can get back healthy, you start to see this team coming together quite a bit. They've been a little bit forgotten early on in the season because they've been injuries, riding this wave, right?
Yeah. It's the injuries, but I think, we've touched on it a little bit here on the pod with Scottie Pippen Jr. stepping up in a major way and Jay Huff stepping up in a major way. And they find ways to get guys to play good basketball for them, finding these rotation players. And now when you bring in Ja Morant, who is this offensive weapon unto himself, it just completes the team in a major way. And so I'm looking at the Grizzlies now with kind of an expectation that they're going to surge up the standings. Given, Ja comes back, Jaren Jackson Jr., by the way, playing really, really great basketball. You mentioned Desmond Bane, and now they have this collective around a really, really good head coach in Taylor Jenkins.
I don't know about that one. Okay. Speaking of forgotten teams, the Pelicans got some good injury news. DeJounte Murray's going to come back apparently Wednesday. But, you got to ask, what does this mean for Elfrid Payton?
Yeah.
Elfrid Payton last night played his first basketball game since 2022, had 21 assists in the game. Now, look, they were playing the Pacers at home, and that meant that Tyrese Halliburton showed up. And so they lost that game. But still, great performance from Elfrid Payton. That's kind of incredible. The most assists, single game assists this year by any player, Elfrid Payton, up off his couch. But Tyrese Halliburton is really the story from the game last night. Looked good, but it was a home game like we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, I kind of obviously we somehow, if we talk about you on this pod for some reason, you're going to have an excellent night. Yeah, moving forward. Elfrid Payton, I kind of like the idea of a guy just coming in when a team is decimated and just being like, oh, remember this guy? Do you remember the last time, other than this year, where Elfrid Payton had double-digit assist numbers? Can you think of the team that he was on? Just give a guess.
It wasn't Orlando?
No, it wasn't Orlando. It was the New York Knicks in 2020. He had a 12 assist game against the Atlanta Hawks in March, right before.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. Absolutely wild. Wow. So that's the last time we saw Elfrid Payton put on an assist show, if you will.
That's pretty amazing. He's a pretty good player, man.
Yeah, he is a good player.
All right, I gotta ask you a question. Had some disappointing performances last night, and I gotta ask you which one's worse.
Okay.
The Warriors blowing an 18-point lead to the frisky Nets.
Nets. True. Yeah.
Or the Denver Nuggets not even showing up against the Knicks.
The Warriors' loss is pretty bad because they were up. And it
18.
seemed like it seemed like it was over. And then the Nets just hit a million threes. FIBA Schroeder just closed them out. It was it's great. But I think it has to be the Nuggets. You hear what Michael Malone is saying post game about how these starters didn't bring it. They didn't bring the energy. They had a great win in LA, but then Jamal Murray said that some guys kept their mind in LA and didn't bring it back to Denver to play. I wonder who he's talking about there.
No idea.
But I think that it's Denver. I will say, though, the Knicks offense is as advertised right now. They just were incredible. 3 superstars tonight in Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby, who had 40 points on the night. Is just their offense is clicking on all cylinders right now. And Denver was just the team that kind of had to deal with it in the moment. They were also bouncing back from an ugly loss against Utah in the weekend.
That's right. And everyone, when they lose to Utah, they play harder that next game. They're like, nope.
No way.
This is embarrassing.
I will say, though, I have to talk about OG a little bit because he has just been incredible for this Knicks team. I mean, yes, we know what he can do on the defensive end, the all defense type player. I think when he's at his best, he's one of the 5 best defenders perimeter in the NBA. When it comes to the offensive side of the ball, he has been, for a very large portion of his career, mostly a 3-and-D player, but he stepped into more of an offensive role this season. And that's what's been so intriguing. He's averaging a career high in points, doing so efficiently, shooting the ball very well. He's doing pull-up jumpers and finishing in and around the basket more often, hitting on 40% of his pull-ups, 2 pull-up mid-range jump shots. I think that's really intriguing for a Knicks team that, yes, has Jalen Brunson, yes, has Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges can get to a bucket, but now you have OG that's stepping in and kind of demanding more attention on the offensive side of the ball too. That's what's exciting to me outside of the defense that he's already providing. Yeah,
and he operates so well in the dunker spot when Karl Anthony Towns is spreading the floor. I mean, it's just things are working there offensively. I would love to see some consistent defensive improvement for them.
Yes.
Guys, stick around.
He can only do much. He can only do so much, man.
That's true.
Only do so much.
Guys, stick around after the break. We got Law Murray to break down the Clippers just getting swatted away by the Celtics. The NBA Daily Curse continues. We just gotta
we're like 0-6.
Yeah, we gotta quit doing this to people. Law Murray, Clippers beat writer at The Athletic, joining us right after the Celtics just destroyed the Clippers. It was 126-94. Law, you made the trip for the blowout. At least you got to see Kristaps Porzingis. He had 16 points. How did he look?
There were parts of the game where I thought he looked really good. And then I just listened to Porzingis talk after the game and referred to his vertical as a flat tire multiple times.
Well, they were throwing him those were wishful thinking on a couple of those lobs.
Hey, I mean, you going to throw a wishbone to a 7'3" dude if you got the chance to.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, these dudes, no disrespect to Quaid and Cornette and Al Horford, but, Porzingis is like, oh, shoot, he there.
Yeah, I know.
He going to bring it down somewhere. The great thing about throwing a lob to a guy is that you can throw the most horrible pass. It's either going to be a highlight or it's going to be a dead ball set to defense. So
yeah.
I throw a lob all the time. There's no footage of me ever throwing a successful lob to anybody I've ever hooped with. So, that's got to be how it felt to have Porzingis out there. And, I mean, when Porzingis was on the bench, like Boston smacked the Clippers, that's where the game was. I felt like this was a game where it's like, hey, Kristaps Porzingis is playing. He's a guy who can shoot and he can go inside. It's like Dave Chappelle talking to his kids, preparing them to watch Sesame Street. You know what I mean? Like, they were prepared for that. And when Porzingis went to the bench and they started just, not giving the ball to tall people, that's when the Clippers got lit up. So I think the best thing, my favorite play, and I think Boston's favorite play after listening to Jaylen Brown, I think favorite play was Jaylen working his tail off defensively, keeping the ball on the same side of the floor. The ball never hits the second side. They hit this, the ball's in the corner. I think Chris Dunn was the one who tried to drive and finish. And there's this dude looking like one of, Rocky's adversaries just come in there and protect the rim for a shot clock violation. I think that was the best play that I saw Kristaps make. Everything else was gravy. Him, fail jumping his way to some alley-oop finishes is cool. But the Celtics give up a ton of points. And they gave up a ton of pain points tonight, but they were also playing against a team that had an incredibly stale, stagnant offense. If those guys are going to be more empowered to defend their ass off because they've got that guy back behind them, that's why that team is capable of just,
terrifying
by 30.
Yeah. Yeah. They hit, I think they hit 12 threes just in the second quarter, which was a record.
Look, NBA record. And
every game.
So here's the thing. You bring that up. You know how many threes they attempted in the first quarter? 17. It's the same number they attempted in the second quarter. Now, the difference is they go from hitting only 4 of those 17 threes in the first quarter to hit
to 12.
To 12, the dozen. And when it's about the attempts, we're not
it's the math. And in the run that the Clippers went on, they started out, the Celtics started out the third quarter 0-6.
Right. That cut a 29-point lead. Mind you, the Clippers had to travel on the back-to-back. Celtics were on the back-to-back, but they played earlier and didn't have to travel. They played home against Minnesota. And so, the Clippers looked like they weren't sharp defensively. Some of the threes that the Celtics were getting, the Clippers made baskets. And one of the moments where I was like, this ain't going to be the Clippers' night was they get a bucket and here Peyton Pritchard is racing up and Terrence Mann and Kevin Porter Jr. take the same man and, Peyton's behind them in the corner. He gets a three after he had just made a three. Timeout. Right. Game was never really competitive after that. Guys were going to the sideline, chirping at each other. That's when you know what is happening here. The thing that the Celtics do that people are I feel like people just look at the end of the quarter or the end of the game and it's like, oh, they just took more threes or whatever. They do all the other stuff that make the margins count. They take care of the basketball. They don't foul you. And then when they have opportunities to run, they're not your classic fast-paced team. But when they have opportunities to beat you with pace and you're asleep, they beat you that way as well. They defend the three. The Clippers didn't even get 30 attempts up, Crazy, they only made 10 jump shots. I'm including the mid-range. They only made 10 jump shots the entire game. So, if a team is going to hit 12 threes, that's the offense. But a 30-point result comes because they lock your ass down as well. And the Clippers were too stagnant to compete tonight.
Man, it's funny because yes, this game had this result, but before this, the Clippers were playing good basketball.
That's right. 5 in a row.
5 in a row.
It was written,
It was written. Yeah, we just look. Obviously, depending on who you ask, they have played better than much people have expected. Many people expected this team to maybe falter and weather out, but they've been hooping and they've been playing well, I think. The defense has been one of the best in the league this season. They have the personnel to compete on that end. You talked about their offensive struggles so far, but what is it about this team that is allowing them to exceed quote unquote expectations?
I think they just got a bunch of dogs, to be honest. Like, I hate to be cliche about it, but, they read and referred often to their preseason expectations externally. And what people dismiss or discount or forget conveniently, you can't forget if you're paying attention, but you can forget if you're just, hopping from one lily pad to the next, I guess, is that the head coach knows what he's doing. Yeah. He got a defensive coordinator, Jeff Van Gundy, who was very motivated to do what he hadn't done in, almost 2 decades, which is coach, like day in and day out. They have a guy in James Harden who he's going to, kind of absorb incredible levels of inefficiency, but he's also going to elevate the guys around him. So James is having a really rough year from a percentage and a turnover standpoint, but there are a bunch of dudes around him that are hooping and that's stuff that doesn't come with just roll the ball out and have a bunch of name tags. You have to get to know guys. You have to, work on details. And you have to be like, these are shots that we can get if we actually take care of the basketball. Norman Powell, he didn't play tonight. He hasn't played for a week now because of the hamstring. But Norman Powell, he knew that he could kind of accept Paul George's role.
Addition by subtraction.
Yeah,
addition by subtraction.
He has absolutely done his part. Like, Norm's always been a bucket. And the question is always, can you maintain your efficiency with the increase in volume and the increase in attention? And Norm, for the most part, has done both, and they are deeper than people give them credit for. Even without Kawhi, even without Norm, they are confident in their development to put guys like Jordan Miller, a guy on a 2-way contract. He's in the second year of that thing, and say, hey, look, we were going to run some of the same actions, get to your money. If a guy plays well in the G League and he plays well in Summer League, and then he comes to his second professional training camp, plays well there, you're probably going to have some confidence that, hey, if we're shorthanded, we can go and keep the trains on the tracks for the most part. They have a front office that added a bunch of guys like that, guys who is like, hey, we are no longer, a 3-star team. That's what they were last year, but they've been a 2-star team for years. And now they were smart about, in the short term, get guys who are going to play hard consistently. Yeah. They don't play very smart. That's where the turnovers come from, the blown leads, whatever, but they play hard. And if you're going to play hard and then have enough coaching to set guys up for success, have a guy like Harden who has been to the playoffs every year of his career and has been a part of top offenses every year of his career, you're probably going to be able to give yourself a chance to win games. And that's really where it comes down to. A lot of these games are close. Recently, they've been starting to blow some teams out. They got blown out tonight. They caught
it's the NBA.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's life in the NBA.
They got the Washington Wizards Wednesday night.
That's right. They probably got another blowout in their favor coming. Listen,
another opportunity.
You have a table setter like Harden who knows how to handle a double team, and it opens up so many things on the floor. And I like Norm Powell. He can score with the ball, but also works so well off the ball, coming off screens. And then they have all these high floor players. Chris Dunn, who can lock a guy down for you. Ivica Zubac,
man.
One of the better
Zubats,
amazing season. So, this team, look, they're 11-8 right now after getting smacked by the Celtics, which everybody gets smacked by the Celtics. But, they look competitive. And when you look around the league and you look at, just the parity around the league and how tight the West looks like it's going to be, man, if they can survive long enough, to either where Harden is actually fully in James Harden shape, which he's not quite there yet. It takes till February, March, or, somehow Kawhi can come back and add something to this team in the spring come playoff time. They are going to be dangerous no matter what, because they just have so many dudes.
At the very least, they're going to play very hard in the playoffs if they get there. They are going to be a tough out. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, go and read them over at The Athletic. Law Murray, one of my favorites. You're going to do power rankings right after you leave us? Is that what's happening?
Tuesday morning.
There we go. Go and catch those power rankings, everybody. Stick around after the break. S and I are going to talk about why so many small guards are finding success in the modern NBA. We put the call out on the website and you guys answered. We got a bunch of questions. If you didn't get a chance to leave us your questions, go to theathletic.com, go and check out the NBA front page. You'll see we put up the mailbag request on the website. I'll put the link in the show description so you guys know where it's at. But we got some great questions. First 2 questions from the website for the new pod. So here we go. We got Bodie S, which I can't help but think of Point Break. With Scottie Pippen Jr. experiencing success lately and how successful Jalen Brunson has been, will NBA teams start giving small, talented players the same opportunity they give long, athletic wings who have no actual basketball skills? All right, let me just set the table here first. Number one, that's not the actual no actual basketball skills does not happen. Definitely doesn't happen anymore.
Doesn't happen in the NBA. Also.
Not anymore. I mean, there were definitely guys who, it was like he's 6'8" and long, and we're going to try this project out. We're going to teach
him.
Doesn't happen anymore. There's no bums anymore. And I would say this. You're never going to see the smalls, like the real small guys, get true opportunity because it just the level, like the floor is lower. Yeah. I mean, literally and figuratively, but nice. I mean, I guess the ceiling's lower, but the floor is actually lower just because the height does matter in the sport. But what I'll say is this, part of the reason why smalls have become more successful is because of spacing bigs. Mm-hmm. You've got more space to operate in, which means the defense has more room they have to cover, which means when you're small, you can open up bigger windows. Now, it's still you got to work. You watch Scottie Pippen. I don't know how many miles he's running a game, but I bet it's quite a bit because you're having to work so much harder off the ball and a lot of backdoor cutting. Now, Brunson, what he's able to do, I mean, he's just putting on his Timberland boots and going to work. I mean, he plays like a much bigger guy. Yeah. And he almost plays more like DeMar DeRozan. So
he's also not that small. Like he's like 6'3",
and stocky.
And like wider, like Kyle Lowry is a guy who kind of has that same build, you know what I mean? In his prime, he was like that. I think the Scottie Pippen mold is a little bit different and harder to come by now in the NBA. It's, it's kind of like Trey Jones in San Antonio.
To be able to defend at that size is really where the hard thing, because like, think about it. Anthony Simons, smaller guard. I mean, Ja, he's just so good offensively that the defensive stuff doesn't come up, but it usually winds up being when these small guys don't make it, it's the defensive end.
Unfortunately, you need to have an outlier skill. Like you need to have whether it's the shooting, whether it's incredible defense, or whether you're able to play bigger than you are. That's what you need as a small guard now.
Isaiah Thomas, man, like guy's 5'9" and had a really good run, including that whole run with the Celtics.
Yeah,
before he had the hip injury.
Great shot.
I mean, he had one of the best sort of hesitation dribbles ever in the NBA.
And then they started calling it a carry. And it was,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was useful. But next question. Here we go. KCB. Here we go. And this is a good question. Who is most likely to become the next great former player turned head coach? Asked about Jerry Stackhouse, maybe Rajon Rondo.
Ooh.
I'll say Stackhouse might be the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know some folks that have worked with him in some of his previous stops. I mean, I really thought that by now he would have gotten a chance, especially like coming off his Toronto G League.
Yeah, he's been in consideration for jobs before. Maybe I think he might have interviewed for either Toronto or Brooklyn at some point.
This Warriors bump that he's getting, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of people giving him credit for the improvement in the defense. I mean, part of that's personnel, but clearly, like he has got a huge instructional role there. Yeah, but I think Stackhouse is probably a good thought here of the guy who's going to be in the next round of conversations when an opening comes up. Anybody like that we're missing that? I saw Kemba Walker on the bench, tonight, and it reminded me that he's sitting on the bench.
I actually have one. So I was watching the Pistons Raptors game. Jarrett Jack. He has been with a bunch of different assistant
did the G League
as well. So he's been like a developmental guy. I think Jarrett Jack might be a guy right there.
Yeah, I mean, the pipeline now seems very clear for the former player to get into coaching. I mean, we know about how it works with the front office. So I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that just as nepotism is a thing, right? Like, and that's it's going to play into it. So it is a corporate environment.
It's who you know, not what you. Yeah,
and these players already know everybody, and they know what you know going in. You don't have to prove yourself if you're a player. So it's a little bit I'm not even going to say an easier path because that'd be disrespectful, but it is a different path, I'll say. But Stackhouse, from everything I know and everything I've heard from people who work with him directly, that guy he seems is like going to be a guy.
Yeah. So, hey, today we saw Stackhouse and the Warriors lose against a guy that was talked about a lot, right? Jordy Fernandez was the name you kept hearing. And now he's just an incredible coach for the Nets.
Doing a great job. And he had a pretty, he had an okay summer, I think. I mean, it wasn't as bad for him as people want to make it out to be. But he's been pretty good this season. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. For S. Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.